Trump just granted ICE total authorization to defend themselves against people who hamper their efforts to abduct migrants off the streets. Trump finds immigrants disgusting. People who cross the border, to him, are dirty. All of his policies are aimed at this demographic. And so when COVID comes along and 1 million people die,
$150 billion for immigration enforcement? That's not border security. That's building a secret police. Trump's scheme isn't just about catching migrants. It's about turning ICE into his personal army. But what does that mean for you? Imagine getting arrested just for how you look or where you happen to be shopping. This isn't immigration policy. It's the erosion of democracy. Who's next on Trump's hit list? Stick around, because this story goes deeper than you think. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. What if $150 billion of your hard-earned taxpayer money was being funneled into something that could eventually come after you? That's not a conspiracy theory. Under Trump's plan, it's a very real possibility. The proposed ICE budget is so massive, it's hard to wrap your head around. For context, $150 billion could fund the entire Department of Education for several years or pay for universal preschool across the country. Instead, Trump wants to pour it into expanding ICE, effectively turning it into one of the most powerful and least accountable agencies in the federal government.
And ICE will likely expect his protection when things inevitably go bad. He's likened them to vermin, to animals, poisoning the blood of the country. Because the rich people are spared. And today, at a Faith Office luncheon, whatever that is, at the White House,
If it sounds ridiculous, it's because it is. But this isn't just about money being thrown at border enforcement. It's about militarizing ICE in a way that makes it look less like an immigration agency and more like a paramilitary force. We're talking 10,000 new agents, no significant oversight, and the power to operate virtually unchecked. Picture it. Black SUVs pulling up outside suburban schools, agents storming workplaces, even showing up at grocery stores. This isn't fear-mongering, it's already happening. In Ventura County, California, ICE agents raided a cannabis farm primarily employing undocumented workers. They weren't there to stop violent criminals. They were hauling away farm workers trying to make an honest living. This is what Trump calls law and order. Civil rights groups aren't exaggerating when they label this an authoritarian power grab. Legal experts have pointed out how expanding ICE in this way creates the ideal tool for racial profiling and suppressing dissent. Trump's rhetoric has laid the groundwork for this shift. Calling immigrants vermin echoes language we've seen in history books, language that regimes use right before stripping people of their humanity. And it's not just about immigrants. Once you create an unaccountable force, who's to say where it stops? Today it's raids on undocumented families. Tomorrow it could be anyone who steps out of line with whoever's in charge.
This is the secret police that people are talking about, Trump's personal militia. It might seem like an impossible thing is happening in the US. You see, Trump is a eugenicist and cares only for rich, white, good-looking people. But to understand Donald Trump's view of the other is to understand a white supremacist with zero empathy.
So ask yourself, does $150 billion sound like it's about enforcing borders or about planting seeds for a system of fear and control? Trump's vision here isn't about immigrants, it's about reshaping the balance of power in ways that start with the vulnerable but don't end there. What happens when ICE gets total authorization, though? That answer might keep you up tonight. Imagine an agency with no rule book, free to arrest people based on their skin color, the language they speak, or even where they happen to shop. That's what Trump's Total Authorization Directive has done for ICE. It's not law enforcement, it's chaos. Under Trump, ICE has gone rogue, with nearly unlimited power and practically zero accountability. Checks and balances? Gone. Oversight? Never met her. This is an agency that's now operating completely unchecked, targeting not just undocumented immigrants but entire communities. And when there are no rules, the results are as bad as you think. ICE agents have shown no shame in arresting people outside schools, churches, even protests.
Trump doesn't care because he knows it's mostly the poor who perish. And when the floods come to Texas and he shows no empathy, he lets slip who his massive spending bill will really benefit. Why old rich white men need him.
It's not just immigrant families being impacted either. This creates ripple effects of fear across whole neighborhoods. Take the death of a farm worker in California. He wasn't a dangerous criminal. He wasn't even a threat. He was a guy on a rooftop desperately trying to avoid ICE. Tragically, he fell to his death, all because of a raid that looks more like a dystopian sci-fi movie than a modern democracy. This unchecked power isn't new when we look at history. Every authoritarian regime starts with agencies like this, arms of the government that act outside the law and instill fear over fairness. Think of secret police forces that operated in regimes we now read about only with horror. Legal complaints have already flagged this. Arrests based solely on skin color and accents. Officers acting like someone's DNA is a crime scene. And don't think this is just about illegals either. Civil rights leaders have warned us time and again, if they're targeting certain communities today, who's to say they won't expand that targeting tomorrow? Trump might call it total authorization, but let's call it what it really is, a license to ignore the Constitution. This isn't about protecting borders, it's about erasing them, the ones between law and abuse of power. Now, with fear replacing laws, the only question left is this: when you can't trust the system, who's safe? Because safe is sounding less and less like an option these days. Trump's $150 billion ICE blueprint isn't about security, it's about fear. It's a plan where power outweighs accountability, and the communities targeted first are always the most vulnerable. But here's the twist. This doesn't stop with borders. When fear becomes the foundation of government policy, democracy doesn't vanish in an explosion. It crumbles piece by piece under unchecked power and silence. So ask yourself, what kind of country do you want? One where laws protect everyone, or one where power rules over fairness? Staying informed isn't optional, it's urgent. Remember, democracy doesn't collapse overnight. It's sold off $150 billion at a time.